Welcome back, everyone, to Athletes in AP History Live. I'm your host, Joe Sebastian. Thank you for joining us. If this is your first live stream, welcome. We go live every Monday, 8 o'clock Eastern. We do various trainings, various interviews all around the AP course. So again, involving in our AP group, our group for AP History and Student Athletes, where we help student athletes succeed on their AP exam so they can earn that precious college credit. And we had to move the schedule around last week. We had an unexpected curveball with some practice overlap, but Laura is joining us tonight. Laura, hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm good.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for fitting us into your schedule. I know you are very, very busy with a bunch of extracurriculars, but Laura was a masterclass student from this past spring for AP US History. And Laura, I'm going to kind of turn it over to you right away, just kind of jumping right in. Tell us a little about yourself, your background, course load that you took this past year, and extracurriculars that you're in.
So this year I had a bunch of harder classes. I was in chem, pre-calc, APUSH, and those were just a lot to handle, and I didn't really have that much background on history at all, so I was kind of struggling in APUSH. But on top of that, I also had extracurriculars like violin, and I picked up piano and guitar. So yeah, I was pretty busy.
You're a busy musician.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome. Okay. So take us back this year, so this was like really your first experience with the AP courses?
Yeah, this was my first AP class.
Okay. And so just what was that like this year? Because we really didn't start working together until about April. So what was your experience in APUSH for the school year?
It was a lot of textbook. And I found that really difficult because paying attention, like actively memorizing while you're reading a textbook, was difficult for me. And whatever wasn't in the textbook was like us creating presentations and about like specific time periods. So we only really got a ton on specific time periods, but overall it was like pretty self-study.
Self-study. And your mom told me a straight A student, right? You're a very high achieving, very successful student. Okay. Awesome. And so kind of up and down, a little bumpy, little self-study. The textbook, any AP textbook is, a lot, right? It is thick, and there's a lot to kind of comprehend. So spring rolls around, and you are getting ready for the AP exam. And where was that moment, like that kind of like you felt like you needed something else besides what you were doing?
Well, in class we'd been doing practice tests, like full-length practice tests, and I was consistently getting like about a 3 on them, and I was really trying to improve my score, but I just found that the teacher's feedback wasn't enough for me, and it was like not helping at all. So then I was like, I have to find something outside of school.
When you say the feedback wasn't enough, was that specifically on the essays?
Yeah.
Okay. Now what did that look like?
Well, it just said be more specific here, and it was just like, this is not right or something like that, and I just didn't really understand what I could add.
Okay. And were you specifically taught the writing strategies for all 3 essays prior to that, or was it just kind of like figured out?
No, we weren't taught anything. Our APUSH teacher was just gave us a prompt and then expected our prior writing knowledge to play into it. But
Got it. And that is what I have found, that is kind of the norm almost in a lot of schools across the country, is that many students like yourself, the teachers make assumptions that you do know how to write and you'll figure it out. And that's not the case, because specifically there's a little technical process to it, but once you kind of unlock that, it can work. So I think your mom reached out to me. I remember where I was because I was at a conference all weekend, and made a connection with her, and she wanted some more information about the masterclass and getting you enrolled and getting you started for test prep, with the exam probably 8 days or 9 days away. It was something crazy like that. I remember that. And I remember having the conversation like, it's going to be a lot in a very short amount of time. I feel bad for her. But your mom said you were very driven and very, had a lot of conviction on she can do it. She can handle it. It just, she needs that guidance. So that, obviously that was true, but like kind of take me through that process.
Yeah, so I didn't even realize she contacted you about this. I was just telling her about how I was worried that I wouldn't do as well as I was hoping to do on the test. And I remember she told me I signed you up for classes as I was on the way to a solo competition. And she was like, you have a meeting today. And I was in the car on a Zoom call with you.
Yeah, and you are in a different time zone, but I was actually behind you at the time because I was out in Arizona. I remember doing our first session in the car. I threw a lot at you. I felt terrible. It's not the usual. I usually work with students like yourself, like with 8 or 12 weeks to go for the exam. And, this year we're doing something year round to support students, so it's not crunch time. But you kind of took it and ran with it. So what specifically stood out to you about the class, about the writing style, the writing teachings, things like that? Like, what was there kind of like some light bulb moments going on? What happened?
So your course actually had really helpful tips on how to structure writing, especially on the short answer questions, because I found myself struggling with like what to include, like how much to include, but your like strategy for that, I think it was 3-step process that you had, I found that really helpful in like guiding me through how to do it.
Awesome. That's awesome. And I remember specifically like the first time we went over either a DBQ or an LEQ. And do you remember what I said to you?
Maybe.
No. No, I
Not
just said
really.
you're a really strong writer. Like you have that ability to get a 5. And I don't know if you didn't feel the confidence in yourself because you had never like, I guess, put your knowledge into that process together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because then in a very short amount of time, literally that week, we did a couple, and you were consistently writing at that high level that we would want to see for students who want to get 4s and 5s on the exam. Did you feel it? Did you feel more confident with that process?
Yeah, I felt more confident that I was hitting all the points that I wanted to in the time crunch. But I was still a little uncertain because beforehand I was getting like 3s, and then suddenly I'm like getting 5s, and I'm like, are we sure?
Well, we went, so once you were done with the review and you started practicing the essays, I gave you that AP score calculator, because I obviously we saw where you were with the multiple choice, and I give you honest feedback. You were able to hit that 5 level of scoring, with consistency, with those writings. So that because you have those elements there, I'm pretty sure that's you were definitely consistently hitting those levels. So I know you were like, it was such a short amount of time. You were very unique. You definitely have to be probably one of the shortest test preps I've ever done in terms of getting ready for the exam, less than a week. I've done maybe less classes, but never that much close to crunch time. So anything else specific that you saw improve? Like, I know it was a very short amount of time, but just that you can kind of go into a little more detail on.
I found that just like for all of the like long answer questions, the DBQ short answer questions, I found that my prepping for those completely changed in that short amount of time. Like before, I was just kind of skimming through the documents, reading the questions, going back marking of the text, and it was just so time consuming. But I found that this like was just way more efficient.
The specific strategy on how to attack the DBQ and that read it once, get everything you need out of it, and then apply it to the writing. Okay. Awesome. We had Izzy on last week, and she talked about the DBQ too. And any of you that are joining us, I see some people still popping the live stream. We're joined by Laura, who I think pretty much mastered her APUSH exam in a very short amount of time, implementing some of the writing strategies that we teach in the master class. If anyone is also interested in that DBQ template, we gave it away last week. We're going to give it away tonight again. Just type in DBQ in the chat. I'll be sending that out, as well as the replay. I'll tag you in the post. And that is completely free. Those writing guides will eventually be probably a couple dollars to purchase, but for right now, they're still free. So if you are interested in grabbing one while it's still free, just type DBQ, and you'll get the same templates that we taught with Laura, and she implemented it in a very short amount of time. Okay, so Laura, so would like just anything else that stood out in terms of like when? Oh, I'm sorry, I already asked that question. Let's go on to so it's May 5th, and now you're going into APUSH. I don't know, I forget how many times we met before. I felt like it was April 24th or 25th until May 5th. It was either a week and a half or two. I can't specifically remember, but talk about, you were lacking a little bit of confidence or certainty about your prep level. Going into the exam, how did you feel?
When I got to the exam, I was more confident than I would have been without this, definitely, because I was like, I've been scoring pretty high on these practice tests, so if I just like take a deep breath, should be fine, and then I get to the questions and they're not that bad, and I'm like, this is working out.
I love hearing that, because it's like I strive for it to be harder than the test, because I want the test to feel easier, to work on that, test anxiety and relief. So that is awesome. So you felt prepared then for the test. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
All the strategies. Awesome. And you felt like you delivered a 5. I know we were like a little uncertain, but if you think we're there, we'll find out in a month, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I mean, like you said, prior to this, you were scoring 3s on your practice test. We did a couple quick tweaks and a couple different writing strategies, and we were able to get consistent on those rubrics. So that is awesome too. So, big plans coming up. You are going into what grade again?
I'm going to be a junior.
You're going to be a junior, rising junior. Okay, so this is the big year for college and prep, and I think you're switching over to IB next year, correct?
Yep.
Awesome. Used to teach IB too, and we have big college plans as well, right? So hopefully we get some credit. We can apply that to wherever you pursue in your next chapter.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Any final thoughts about the masterclass in general, the overall prep level that you felt with the APUSH exam?
I definitely think you should start this way earlier than I did. It would have been way more helpful in absorbing all the information for the multiple choice questions, which was like one of the parts that I couldn't really improve a ton on, just given the amount of time I had. But I think that you should be able to get a 5, especially if you start it way earlier than I did.
Well, I appreciate that, Laura. If you are joining us or still with us tonight, we do run the masterclass now all year. We're going to have group classes leading up to the spring to do one-on-one test prep. If you're interested in more details, just type 5 in the chat. One of our client specialists will be in touch if you want more details. We're actually doing early enrollment this summer, loading up APUSH, AP World, AP Human Geography, and AP Government. We have a bunch of students that have signed on in the last couple of weeks. Would love for you to be a part of this process. And like Laura said, I wish she was in it a little bit longer, but she definitely got the benefits of just the test prep down the stretch. So Laura, thank you so much for your time. I'm so glad we could work this out. I really, really appreciate you joining us for this short amount of time. I wish you nothing but the best. I know you're not taking an AP exam next year, but if you ever need help with IB, I've taught that too. So hopefully we'll be in touch. And I will definitely be in touch in a couple of weeks to find out what score you got there.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yep.